It's May 15, 1974, at 8:30 a.m. in the Presidio Heights neighborhood of San Francisco. Patty Hearst, a 19-year-old granddaughter of William Randolph Hearst, is being dragged out of her apartment building by 5 heavily armed members of the Symbionese Liberation Army. They throw her into the back of a hijacked station wagon, slamming the door behind her. The kidnappers, dressed in black and wearing ski masks, speed away from the scene, leaving behind shattered glass and stunned witnesses. Panic and confusion grip the community as the reality of the situation sets in. The scene unfolding before the kidnappers' getaway is one of pure chaos. The station wagon screeches to life, spewing smoke and exhaust as it careens through the quiet neighborhood streets. Witnesses stare in horror, their eyes fixed on the fleeing vehicle as it disappears into the morning fog. The sound of sirens blares in the distance, but the kidnappers are long gone by the time the first responders arrive. In the chaos, a lone woman tries to remember the license plate number of the hijacked car. Patty Hearst, once a privileged and sheltered socialite, stands trembling in the back of the station wagon as the kidnappers speed away. Her long, blonde hair is disheveled, and her designer clothing is now tattered and smeared with dirt. Her eyes, filled with a mix of fear and confusion, dart back and forth as she struggles to comprehend the gravity of her situation. The kidnappers, their faces hidden behind ski masks, seem completely unfazed by the ordeal, their eyes fixed on the road ahead. As the station wagon speeds through the streets, Patty's world is turned upside down. Witnesses to the kidnapping describe the scene as a scene from a horror movie. They recall the sound of gunfire and the sight of the hijacked station wagon speeding away. Some report seeing the kidnappers tossing rocks at the apartment building, smashing the windows of Patty's apartment. Others recall hearing the sound of Patty's screams as she was dragged away. The sheer brutality of the kidnapping shocks the community, leaving many to wonder if they will ever see Patty Hearst again. Before we go further, hit subscribe and the bell. We post new cases every single day. Let me take you back to the very beginning of this story, to a privileged upbringing and a life of luxury that seemed perfect. Patty Hearst was the granddaughter of one of the most powerful men in America, William Randolph Hearst. Her family's wealth and influence seemed to shield her from the darker aspects of the world. But on that fateful day in May 1974, everything changed. The Symbionese Liberation Army would take Patty on a journey that would leave her forever changed, and the world would never see her in the same light again. The Symbionese Liberation Army, a radical left-wing group, was known for their extremist views and violent tactics. They saw Patty's family as a symbol of the corrupt and oppressive establishment, and they were determined to make a statement. As we delve into the story of Patty Hearst's kidnapping, we'll explore the motivations behind this shocking crime, and the complex web of events that led to one of the most infamous trials in American history. The question on everyone's mind is, was Patty a willing participant in the Symbionese Liberation Army's crimes, or was she a victim of circumstance? Patricia Campbell Hearst, the central figure in this case, was born on February 20, 1954, and lived in San Francisco, California, at the time of the kidnapping. She was 20 years old when the Symbionese Liberation Army took her from her apartment. As a member of the wealthy and influential Hearst family, she was exposed to luxury and privilege from a young age. Her family's wealth and social status gave her access to the best education and upbringing. She was raised among the elite and had every opportunity to succeed in life. As a member of the Hearst family, Patty was accustomed to a life of luxury and privilege. She was a student at the time of the kidnapping, attending Menlo College in California, and her days were filled with classes and social events. Her family's wealth allowed her to have a private education, and she was well liked by her peers. She was an attractive and charming young woman, known for her beauty and her outgoing personality. Her family's connections and wealth gave her a sense of security and stability in her life. Patty Hearst was a likable and relatable figure due to her tragic circumstances. As a member of a wealthy and influential family, she was seen as an outsider by many, but her kidnapping and subsequent radicalization made her a sympathetic figure. Her transformation from a carefree college student to a convicted felon made her a tragic figure in the public eye. Her story captivated the nation, and many people felt sorry for her. She was a symbol of the turbulent times in which she lived, and her story continues to fascinate people to this day. Before her kidnapping, Patty was a young woman with her whole life ahead of her. She had a close relationship with her family, particularly her parents, Randolph and Catherine. She also had a friendship with a man named Stephen Weed, who would later play a significant role in her life. However, the months leading up to the kidnapping were marked by tension and change in Patty's life. Little did she know, a dramatic turn of events was just around the corner, one that would change her life forever. On February 4, 1974, at approximately 9 a.m., Patricia Hearst, a 19-year-old sophomore at the University of California, Berkeley, was in her apartment on Berkeley's Hill near the UC Berkeley campus. The day was cold and foggy, with temperatures reaching the mid-40s. The area was quiet, with the occasional student walking to class. It was a normal Monday morning. The apartment, shared with her fiancé, was in a somewhat upscale neighborhood. Patty Hearst had been planning to take a morning art history class that day, but she still had some time to spare before heading out. Her fiancé, Stephen Weed, had left for work, and Patty was alone in the apartment. She had received a phone call from a friend earlier that morning, and after the call, she began to prepare for her day. Her parents had not taken any special precautions to protect their daughter, and she was not considered a high-profile target at the time. Her family's wealth and influence were well known, but they had not taken any concrete steps to protect themselves. As Patty Hearst worked in the apartment, 3 members of the Symbionese Liberation Army, including Emily Montague, Nancy Ling Perry, and Donald DeFries, knocked on the door. They presented themselves as deliverymen and forced their way into the apartment. Patty was ordered to come with them, and she obeyed. The kidnappers quickly overpowered Patty and bound her wrists, then dragged her out of the apartment and into a van. The entire operation took only a few minutes. She was dragged naked and gagged out of the apartment. This shocking image would become an infamous part of the Patty Hearst kidnapping and would haunt everyone involved in the case. The kidnappers quickly dressed Patty in a pair of jeans and a sweater, but the image of her naked and helpless would be seared into the minds of everyone who saw it. The world would soon learn of this disturbing detail. Her fiancé, Stephen Weed, became the first person to discover that Patty was missing when he returned to the apartment that evening. He immediately contacted the police and reported her disappearance. The police started an investigation, and Patty's parents were notified. They were in shock and couldn't believe that their daughter was missing. They cooperated fully with the police, hoping to get her back safely. Comment below, what do you think really happened here? Was Patty Hearst a willing participant in the Symbionese Liberation Army's activities, or was she a victim of coercion and manipulation? Share your thoughts with us. As the investigation unfolded, it became clear that the kidnapping was just the beginning of a larger and more sinister plot. Patty Hearst would eventually be forced to participate in bank robberies and other crimes with the Symbionese Liberation Army, and her family would be caught in the middle of a media firestorm. And that's where we will pick up next time. But before we leave you, let me ask, was Patty Hearst ever truly free? Was she ever given the chance to make her own decisions, or was she forever trapped by the kidnappers and their agenda? We'll explore more of these questions in our next video. The police first responded to Patty Hearst's kidnapping by interviewing her fiancé, Stephen Weed, who said he was attacked by a group of people in ski masks. He described the suspects as being between 5 and 6 feet tall, with 2 of the men being heavier and 2 being thinner. A neighbor reported hearing a loud noise and seeing a group of people running from the apartment building. The police initially suspected that the Symbionese Liberation Army was involved, but they couldn't find any concrete evidence. They began canvassing the neighborhood and reviewing surveillance footage in search of leads. The key piece of evidence that changed everything was a Polaroid photograph of Patty Hearst holding a rifle. The photo was taken during a bank robbery in San Francisco that the Symbionese Liberation Army had carried out. The police were able to obtain the film from a bank employee who had seen the robbers and identified one of the masks as belonging to a known Symbionese Liberation Army member. This led investigators to believe that Hearst was actively participating in the group's activities, rather than just being a hostage. Further investigation revealed that Hearst had been in contact with a Symbionese Liberation Army member, a man named Willie Wolf. The main suspects in the case were the Symbionese Liberation Army members, in particular, Donald DeFries, who was the group's leader. DeFries had a history of violence and was known to be charismatic and manipulative. The police also suspected that Hearst's family's resources and influence may have played a role in her disappearance. They searched for any connections between DeFries and the Hearst family but found none. As the investigation continued, the focus shifted to whether Hearst had been a willing participant in the Symbionese Liberation Army. The red herring in this case was a lead about a suspect named Bill Harris, who was believed to be involved in the Symbionese Liberation Army and had a connection to Hearst. Investigators wasted months on this lead, following up on every tip and interviewing numerous witnesses. The police also found a suspicious van linked to Harris, but it turned out to be a dead-end lead. The investigation was bogged down by this false lead, which wasted valuable time and resources. As more time passed, the police began to lose hope of ever finding Hearst and bringing the perpetrators to justice. A twist nobody predicted was that Patty Hearst, the heiress to a publishing fortune, didn't just get away with joining the Symbionese Liberation Army. She actively took part in their crimes, participating in at least 8 bank robberies. The prosecution argued that she had been radicalized by her captors, but Hearst claimed that she had been coerced into participating in their activities. She testified that she had been subjected to physical and psychological abuse, including rape and death threats. This revelation raised questions about the limits of coercion and the true nature of her involvement with the SLA. Hearst's lawyers argued that she was a victim of Stockholm syndrome, a psychological condition in which hostages begin to sympathize with their captors. But the prosecution countered that she was a willing participant, and that her background and upbringing had made her a natural recruit for the SLA's radical ideology. The trial was a major media event, with cameras allowed in the courtroom and widespread coverage of the proceedings. Hearst's family was accused of trying to use their wealth and influence to get her off, but ultimately she was convicted of her crimes. The verdict was a surprise to many, with some predicting that she would be acquitted. Hearst was sentenced to 35 years in prison, but her sentence was later reduced to 7 years. She was released from prison in 1979, after serving 22 months. Her time in prison was marked by controversy, with some protesters demanding that she be released and others criticizing her family for trying to use their influence to get her out. In 1979, President Jimmy Carter commuted her sentence, and in 2001, President Bill Clinton pardoned her. The case remained in the public eye, with many asking whether Hearst's wealth and privilege had played a role in her treatment by the justice system. After her release, Hearst went on to pursue a career in acting, appearing in a number of films and TV shows. Her most notable role was in John Waters' film Melvin and Howard, which was released in 1980. Her father, Randolph Hearst, passed away in 1998, and her mother, Catherine Wood Campbell, passed away in 2013. Her sister, Anna Kraus, has also written about the case, publishing a memoir in 2013. The case of Patty Hearst remains a fascinating and complex one, raising questions about the nature of coercion and the role of privilege in the justice system.